So I've come up with a few questions that I thought I could ask both of you. Being at the top of your game for decades, being that path breaker, being the person who's done things that nobody imagined could ever be possible. What is it that still makes you want to get out of bed in the morning? What is that next big thing, right? Because you could spend days looking at your highlight reels and all the amazing things that you've done, but after being at the top of your game for decades, what is still exciting enough for you to get out of bed in the morning?
I think music itself is a game where it has to be like flowing water. If it's stagnant, it becomes unusable. So it has to be flowing. For that flow, we need to give. More than taking, we need to give. And my inspiration are my students now from K Music. So I'm the principal. I'm also the honorary principal of Trinity Lab in London. And the reason why they selected me is that you're a polymath, and we want our kids to be a polymath, can do everything, not just stuck in one thing. And because I think our mind should not be stagnant. It should be evolving. It should be unlearning, learning. And it's a process which I've been doing forever. What we learn as today might be redundant tomorrow. And so what we learn to unlearn, and we learn. But the core of it is all about humanity. The core of it, all the stuff is, whichever path we follow, we want to be one with the infinite. We want to be one with the universe. And that itself, even one creation, a tree or a river or a mountain or a star, all of these are actually re-emphasizes on how great the Creator is. We may call in different names, but when you celebrate that, things flow into you. Because when you recognize that, things flow. And that's been my path. How can I completely erase myself and be with the divine? In music, that's the same thing. So we all try to do the same thing.
And the same question to you. What is that thing that makes you, after being on the top of your game for decades, still want to get out of bed in the morning and do something new? What is that?
The day we think we are on the top of the game, our downfall starts. Yes. It is a growing process. There's no end to it. Whatever we have learned, whatever we have mastered, everything is the drop in an ocean. So even if as long as classical music concerned, if you say, Carnatic music, derived scales, at one point there were about 700 derived scales, 800 they were saying, but there are more than millions of derived scales there. Not everybody will know all the million scales or even play Aronam Avaronam, this scale. That will take 15, 20 years just to play the Aronam Avaronam. So it is always a vast ocean, but wherever we feel comfortable in that area, depending on the inspiration we get, I think for me, my father has been my sole inspiration. One thing I remember when he was, it's very strange, he never went out. He was in India, then he got a job. He was playing music, and it was a very tough time for musicians before, even now, generally, but there are exceptions. So at that time, he took a job in Sri Lanka and tried to develop technique. But his dream was always to make the Indian violin a solo instrument. For that, he wanted to create a different technique for that. So one thing he told me was, if you type with 3 fingers on the typewriter, your speed is always limited. But if you use all the fingers, you can type much faster. So you should use all the fingers by playing the violin. So that was a spark which I started experimenting on, so even using the thumb or while playing, trying to pluck and play so that you create multi-tonality. Otherwise, when you play with an orchestra, all of a sudden, I realized it in '85 with the New York Philharmonic, is one of the best orchestras. They were playing all the lines and I have to reply to the lines. It would have been, Indian music would have looked very, very small. So in order to change that, we have to develop a lot of techniques. So always looking for new things and realizing we have not achieved everything. That is the most important for anybody, I think.
Beautiful, thank you. I mean, speaking of looking for new things, I think that's another thing that both of you have in common. For you, technology has been something that you've been very interested in from the 1970s, whether it's, physically editing tape, how recording processes work. And with you, sir, I think whether it's AI, AR, VR, always being at the forefront of what is possible, and then a little further, deciding to partner with Mahindra so that they hear your tune when cars switch on, deciding to, create fully immersive experiences around art and music and the way that that can be perceived. How do you see this balanced with, the rights of artists? Or how would you advise young artists who are coming into this field today to embrace technology in a way that they can survive in the coming years?
I think India, all the art I see is past, like 200 years, 300 years, the temples, Taj Mahal and everything. I feel like definitely we can go 1,000% more. And even though I didn't know anything about art, once I went to England, I learned about how it's valued in the West. And my whole vision about music expanded into art, storytelling, technology, and why should we be followers? Why should we be followers of what's done in the West? Why can't we lead the way? And that forced me to think about the VR experience of storytelling. Even though I didn't know anything, I went and directed a movie, 37 minutes, and maybe 2,000 people saw it, but everybody loved it because of it's a location-based installation, and it's very expensive. So right now it's in the Vancouver Dome, where people can see, 250 people can see at the same time. And it was in Singapore, and it's going to Malaysia, Dubai, hopefully, maybe Chennai. And this is my whole core thing. How can we expand? How can we do something for the first time rather than follow what is there? How can we combine things and make an initiative? Same with the conservatory too. I was waiting for the Tatas to do it, and somebody said Tatas are going to have, or some other corporate, and it never happened. So one day I said, I had a car shed. I bought a land for a parking opposite my studio. And I told my mother, I'm going to start a school there. So she said, okay, I'll build you 2 rooms. She built it in 3 months, and we started the KM near my place. And now it's expanded. And we have also adopted an orphanage in Nagaland. We're teaching them there. And hopefully it'll expand more. That answers your question.
And how would you advise young artists in this space with technology?
I think find spaces which nobody else is interested in, but you know that that's going to make an impact. Try it out, test it out, and then go full on. Don't try what other people are doing, because there's so many things Indians can do which we are lacking. Especially, musical theater. We don't have infrastructure, but people will come. People are taking a flight to Germany to watch a Hans Zimmer concert, taking a flight to London to watch Phantom of the Opera or Michael Jackson, musical. They will watch here. People will come all over the world to watch here. I think that's one of the things infrastructure we're lacking, all in India, except for the NMACC. We don't have any place we can do professional musicals like Lion King and Phantom of the Opera or Ramayana, anything. So we need to build that infrastructure. We have a lot of money. Tamil Nadu is the second richest state. Yeah.
I feel like that could be a good headline for the paper. We have a lot of money in India.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've touched upon a number of projects that you're passionate about, whether it's an orphanage in Nagaland, your own children performing, the conservatory, and up for you as well, the LGCE, higher education, SAPA, education for children, the books that you've written. How do you perceive the concept of legacy and what you're creating to leave behind for the next generations?
That's a trap.
No.
It's a trap when you start thinking about it, then you're building your image for yourself. Who cares after you're dead? You just have to, I think, every moment of mine is, can I connect 2 dots and make something out of it? And even with my kids, this thing, if it just takes one step to do something big, it's there in front of you. All it takes is just connect the dots. And sometimes you are in the limelight where you can do it very easily. For instance, doing the orchestra in Dubai was like, had an iteration from Excellency Rimal Hashmi. Said, AR, can you create an orchestra? I said, yeah, I can create an orchestra, but I need the best piano, best mixer. I need the best studio. And so it happened. And through one comes more, and you just have to see. And now there's a legacy, and the whole world has seen, who've been to Dubai have seen that orchestra, what we intended. Same way in India, I think we need headlines for everyone, please. We need a musical theater. We need proper art centers. We need our young kids not just be, enslaved by heroism of film actors or music composers, but more. We want to see our children on stage. We want to see people to take art, because now we have a challenge of AI also. Anything can be generated on a visual media, but can they perform like how these kids amazingly danced, or the dancers have danced? That's a human experience, and that human experience should be what we should set up for the future.
And the same question to you about legacy, creating the LGCE, creating this festival, creating any number of young artists, mentoring, doing things that haven't been done before. How do you perceive the concept of legacy?
One before. How do you fund all this? Sell your house? I'm amazed. I mean, we find it difficult to even do one thing, and then he's brought all this great orchestras, artists.
Friends like you come and be part of it.
I think, having been behind the scenes for the better part of 3 decades, it's just this relentless pursuit, this unreasonable desire to get something done. And I think things like money or facilities are not able to stand in his way. And he does it because he doesn't know a world in which he can't do it. So I think that's...
Answering your question about legacy, I think during different period, even in Western classical music, there's a classical period where Bach, Baroque music, he brought it to the very, very top form. And there were other great composers, same time, like Handel, Vivaldi, and other people. They were also doing the same thing. But then, after getting to the top, then another style created, another style keep on changing. So in our tradition, in violin tradition, basically there was a belief earlier that vocal tradition, everything else is a side instrument. Some melodic instrument, even with the veena, violin was there, flute, violin there. To change that, because if you see the West, this turning point happened when I went to East Germany once. One of the students who were doing a BA music wanted to play and show me the violin. I heard that. I was really shocked because her technique was much, much superior than some of the topmost violins at that time. The reason was we were all looking at accompanying and learning the composition and knowing only that. So how to fully use the instrument, create things, create a solo instrument, make it a very strong instrument. So his dream was to make it. So that legacy I want people to understand. So I asked all my friends, like, either it is George Duke or Stanley Clark or John, everybody, everybody who have collaborated with me, they all love to. In fact, when we started the festival, the 2 people whom I immediately called was saying, after Vijay said we'll start a festival in Papa's name, then which were Menihan and Grappelli, and Peter Brooks. So the reason is his legacy, people didn't know his worth, the changes he was bringing in. But all those steps which we blindly followed without any doubt brought all the changes. So I want to continue that legacy. People should remember Professor Lakshminarayana's violin legacy, which he has brought in as a solo instrument. We are having Institute, Lakshminarayana Global Center of Excellence, where we have 2-3 batches of MAs and BAs and PhDs are working right now, tied up with Jain University and other universities. So basically, for me, I think it is important more than me or doing anything else, people to remember that we are following it. Further, it has to be developed, and hopefully you and other children and other students, they will all seriously take it and take it
Actually, following like that, I definitely missed out my father. Because when I was young and then he passed away, every time I went to the studios, there were only good stories, like what the story he told. So that aura of his, what he strived for, actually pushed me to go further, right? And my first toy was a synthesizer. A synthesizer is actually a very expensive instrument, and he had bought one in 74. And so after he passed away, that was my toy. If I have that as a toy, imagine what I could do. So that's what is legacy, I think. So
That's a very powerful thing, and I think I see many similarities, but this love of the father, and in your case, the respect you had for your mother, and we've all had the privilege of meeting her. But what a spectacular human being she is, and I think the privilege of coming from homes where money wasn't necessarily the biggest thing, but having parents who believed so strongly in art and sharing that and supporting you, I think is great. I'm also someone who has benefited from a similar sort of family life. One thing that really stands out, and I think both of you have referenced it, is your desire and your ability to collaborate at so many levels. You're now doing music with Hans Zimmer. You were the first artist to perform in countries like Iceland and Japan and work with artists from different traditions, work with Lord Menuhin in the 80s, work with, orchestras before people knew what orchestras were, when people just thought any group of musicians was an orchestra. So what is that spirit that makes you open to collaboration, and how do you approach a new collaboration every time?
So can you define music? Ultimately, it's about emotion. Can you make somebody cry, somebody come out of the pain, give a hope without any words? And for me, music is that. Beyond the forms, beyond the harmony, beyond the ragas, that is it. So if I find a kora player or a niyatiti player from Africa who gives just that with 3 notes, I'm a fan of him. I connect soul to soul, not with the playing style or the how fast they play, or that doesn't impress me. But he's got soul. We've got many singers who sing out of tune, but their songs are big hits because they have soul. They speak from the soul. I think that's the same way. I think he connects beyond his genius of playing the fastest violin or the gamakas and ragas. I think he connects with the soul. And so he is not judgmental about what musicality they are, but right? So sorry for speaking for you, but that's how I connect. And I don't judge them by, they've learned 30 years classical music, or they just sing something and I think muse me. I connect with it.
One of the reasons because when I was in California, I had an opportunity to listen to different artists like kora, African music, and we had a very strong ballet, gamelan, all those different music. Listening to their sounds, then their musicianship and their emotions brought a thought, maybe we can communicate even without having a language. That music brings people together. If you go to some concert, there you see all society, everybody sitting there. One of the things I'd like to show, in 1987, when we had a concert in United Nations with Menuhin, there were different countries. Some of the countries' ambassadors were not even greeting each other before the concert was happening. They were all sitting formally. But when the music started, everything, they were all looking at, smiling, giving an ovation, coming and talking to the artist. That barrier was broken. So music is also a very, very powerful vehicle to break the barrier and bring people together from different parts of the world. You can be from anywhere, but everybody has emotion. As he says, if you are happy, you smile. If you are sad, you cry. But when you touch the soul and music, basically, if you see the science of music, it is very, very interesting to see, there's in India, there are 3 tiny bones which transmits the waves, sound waves, to another inner part of the brain where the emotions are realized. Because sometimes when you hear just basically the sound is being transmitted. But internally, the wiring is such, so the emotionally, you become sad, you become familiar, you become comfortable. All those things happen, just simple vibration. So music, different kinds of music brings different emotion in different society. But if we can interact and also communicate and exchange and globally expand, that was the interest which I started collaborating. And also I should mention on the stage, there was one Mr. Richard Bach. He was, even those days, I mean, even now, there is a lot of close mind. If somebody plays classical music and somebody does some experiment, immediately they, even before hearing, they say, oh, he doesn't or she doesn't have classical music anymore. They have diluted everything. That closeness is there among people, press, and society, among some people. But whereas, if you see outside, when you do experimental, you don't have those kind of barriers. So Richard Bach at the time said, I want you to do he heard me playing Indian classical and he knew I'd studied composition. So he said, why don't you write orchestral piece? I said, who is going to play? Because my friend who had a PhD from Yale University, he had written a lot of orchestral pieces. He was struggling to get one piece performed. And he didn't have money to get it done. So he was not, he said, I won't write any more piece anymore because it's just a waste of time. So when he said, why don't you write an orchestral piece? I said, why do you want me to suffer for 6 months? Then nobody will play. I have to look around for somebody to play. Then he said, do a fusion album. So I said, if I do the fusion album, that was the time with violin trio. My father was building a violin trio with Palkat-Mani Iyer. I didn't want to damage that reputation of father. So I told my father, he's asking me to do. And he also said, you do it, but we will make it in such a way so this album will not be produced in India or sold in India. So that was our first fusion album. I didn't have a group. I told him I want a piano.
Moral of the story, get out of India.
Sorry?
Moral of the story, get out of India. When they trap you.
So basically getting to all the musicians who you never knew, you met there. He brought them. Suddenly when all the barrier broke without knowing, because we don't know each other, I wrote and gave something, we started playing. So bringing people through music is something very, very emotionally. We can collaborate with anything if they have an open mind, and hopefully audience and press will also open-mindedly support all the innovative things.
I think traveling is such a great eye-opener because we can go to any university, but traveling and seeing people and their cultures is the best life lesson. I think it's the best university. Education. I think
the best education.
Yeah.
The gentlemen on both sides are making eye contact with me, which I assume means it's time to go. So the last question that I will ask both of you this afternoon is, what's the next dream? What's the dream for 2026? What are you hopeful for? What are you excited about?
My dream is, I've been working on this virtual band called Secret Mountain, and it's like a UN on a band level. There's African, North Indian, South Indian, Chinese, Irish, American. And so we have the meta assets. So there's something called Unreal Engine, the game engine, and then we create human images, which we took around 9 months. Various artists created that. So I gave it a company called Hyperreal, and they made an asset. An asset is almost like a toy where you can control with the human, and then the human performance is linked to that asset. And that does dancing or singing or whatever. Okay? So I've done the songs, and also people like Ed Sheeran and Diane Warren, they're all willing to collaborate and write songs for it. So we'll hopefully launch it in the next few weeks or months.
Amazing.
And that is my dream project.
Appa?
I have many dreams, but my age is catching up. So
He's turning 50 next year.
So one of the things is almost create a system where every violin student can understand how they can get to in a shortest way through an app and through not necessarily going physically to a teacher, because if you are not physically there, you should be able to still get the benefit of those techniques and things like that. Create something which is universally available if they want to know Indian music, particularly Carnatic music.
I love the violin instrument. It's the most hardest instrument ever to play. And, all over the world, it's one of the main instruments which gives soul, harmony. But I find that to play in tune, especially Western violin, is very difficult for us.
Even an Indian violin.
But I'm just thinking, how do you, because when I go abroad and hear students, they're in tune. That's the first thing I notice. But India, they're out. And why is that so?
One of the things is the methodology of teaching. Because before we realize they are just trying to play a song with gamakam, when you play a slide between two notes, my father used to say the starting note and the ending note should be perfect, belong to that raga. So that kind of slide, that kind of technically focusing and developing, it is not universal. I mean, there's not a method which everybody knows it. So it sounds, the same phrase somebody plays sounds out of tune, unfortunately. Somebody plays sounds tune, because that going into detail to perfect it, some methodology and some has to be developed. Then everybody you hear will be in tune.
Please, I think we should doing something. We should do something, and that'd be great. Thank you. Because all the films we're doing now, many composers are working in Budapest, Macedonia, Prague, London, and we are still yet to have an orchestra in each city. Even a place like Iraq, it has an orchestra. And it's not about Indian classical or Western classical. It's about jobs. It's about catering to our needs. We can't keep going abroad when we have 1.4 billion people out there. So it's very, very important to set that, and we should join and do something about the tuning.
You have to do that. And also, I think it'll give as you say, a lot of opportunity to a lot of youngsters who really want to play violin. As you said, it's one of the most difficult instruments. The Tamil Abasaravatyam Chulva, because there's no frets, so you can't really put your finger down and get the right note. You have to get very sharp here so that you know accurately you are in that frame. Then also the other difficulty is, as you go higher and higher octave, the space between the notes becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. So whatever you practice here, that doesn't apply there, higher notes. So it's every shift, it changes. It's a very difficult instrument. But also in the right hand bowing, it's like, in the scratchy sound you hear, it'll irritate you so much. Everybody will say, stop. So it's a difficult instrument. But if there is a methodology, if we can develop something to help the future generation of Indian being, we can be in the forefront of violin groups, because I think we have a knowledge of our own tradition, microtones, which is not present in the West. We are advantage we have because of the system, microtonal system, improvisation and creativity, because everybody, they not learn composition, they also have to improvise. Whereas in the West, even the best of the musicians, if you tell them, this is the piece in between, why don't you play 4 bars? If they're classical musician, they'll say, no, write and give it to us. But whereas people like, George Dukes, Herbie Hancock, Hubert Laws, they just will get into with the emotion, and they will take it to another different level.
So also, I forgot to mention that we want to launch an award called the Bharat Maestro Award, because we have maestros like you, Zakir Hussain Saab is gone, and then we have all the greats have gone. And you're the last Mohican, I think. One of the last Mohican. God bless you with a lot of 120 years of life.
Oh my God. Why do you want to curse me like that?
Yeah. Because we need you for music. No. So, Bharat Maestro Awards are actually empowering and probably entitling the next artist, next sarod player, or the next Shanai player. Bismillah Khan Saab. We don't even have a name after him in Shanai. And most of them are here. And we don't have that. We don't know who the next Zakir is in, who the next. So it is to empower the world to know that this person has been given the Bharat Maestro Award. So for Indian music to get that, and through that we also developed a band called Jala, where we have 6 female singers and male singers. And we traveled to Canada and we launched it at the Wave Summit. All the stuff to see whether we can make classical music more immersive. Because whenever you're watching a movie or whenever you're watching anything, people are constantly on this. How can you make them not use that and be immersed in that? So not only just audio, the visual and smell and everything, probably build places where it's completely immersive. So they get the full, for instance, if you go to a forest and play a violin, Who do you look at the phone? No, because it's so beautiful. Maybe bring that back into musical concerts.
Hopefully somebody should develop a system whenever they're sitting in a concert listening to music, automatically phones should shut off.
Jammers.
Jamming. It'll be a good thing.
No, but I think because the world is evolving, we're getting new tools. I think we have to use all those tools to take our tradition to the next level, the dances, and so that people are not bored. Because they have so many options now, right?
Growth.
Wow, it was such a learning to sit in the presence of both of you and just listen to a conversation between friends. It's a great honor for me to be here on this stage. And I feel like normally the person who's moderating the discussion is not supposed to bring too much of their personal piece into it. But I do want to say this. I feel I'm not alone in the fact that your soundtracks have been the soundtrack of my life, just like they've been the soundtrack of so many other people's lives. But also, I think, and many people know this, and I'm probably not alone here as well, but thank you for being that artist who is so giving to the next generation, who is so inspiring, and of course you are as well. And yeah, who takes the time to listen to young people, who takes the time to applaud them. I remember when you came to his studio many years ago, you had the patience to listen to my songs when I was studying at Berkeley, and they weren't great, let me tell you that. And he had the patience to listen. He gave me some beautiful feedback. He even was kind enough to send me a laptop to work on production. And then when we had the opportunity to work with Don't Leave Me, I remember you had feedback on the spoken word. You took the time to listen to it. You took the time to say nice things about it. So thank you for being that person who still, has enough time to tell somebody else that, yeah, you're doing a good job and keep going.
Thank you, very kind. Shout out to Kavita ji. I think your song, especially the Bhatiyar you sang with Vaidyanathan ji, it's a commercial that taught me Bhatiyar, how to tune in Bhatiyar actually. So all my Bhatiyar is based on what you sang. So I have to acknowledge all that stuff. Sindhu Bharari, Bhatiyar.
Thank you so much for this conversation.